Welcome to Risk and Resilience Podcast. I'm your host, InfoSec Fox, and you're tuned into the weekly update that cuts through the noise to bring you the latest and most crucial developments in cybersecurity and technology. Each week, I'll deep dive into emerging risk, dissect the latest threats, and explore the shifting landscape of geopolitical and threat intelligence. Whether you're a seasoned professional or just passionate about staying informed, this is a place to stay ahead of the curve. This week on Risk and Resilience, we've got a lineup of key developments you won't want to miss. From a major advisory released by the FBI, the US Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency CISA, the US National Security Agency NSA, and international partners around Russian military cyber attackers targeting critical infrastructure, also exploring a staggering 91 billion rubles in damage caused by IT crimes in just 7 months in Russia. We'll also discuss the concerns from threat intelligence officials about foreign influence efforts as US election day approaches, and a vulnerability in LiteSpeed Cache Plugin that's left millions of WordPress sites exposed. Plus, we'll cover Singapore's proposed ban on deepfakes during elections, and CISA's launch of a new portal aimed at improving cyber reporting. And finally, we'll also explore NATO's efforts in securing critical undersea infrastructure. It's a packed first episode, so let's dive in and break down the risk and resilience in this week's cybersecurity and technology news. So let's start off with the first key update. This week we saw a joint advisory released by FBI in partnership with CISA, the US National Security Agency, and other international intelligence partners such as UK National Cybersecurity Centre NCSC, Netherlands Defence Intelligence, and other international intelligence agencies. In this advisory, cybersecurity agencies have shared critical information on the tactics, techniques, and procedures, also known as TTPs, as well as indicators of compromise linked to Unit 29155 of the GRU, or known as the Main Intelligence Directorate in Russia. This unit, formerly known as the 161st Specialist Training Center, has been implicated in various cyber operations targeting global entities, with a focus on espionage, sabotage, and damaging reputations. The Main Intelligence Directorate is Russia's largest foreign international intelligence agency and the main military intelligence services of the Russian Federation. It operates under the Russian General Staff and is responsible for gathering intelligence through various means, including human espionage, electronic surveillance, and cyber operations. But who exactly is Unit 29155, and what have they done in the past? Unit 29155 is a covert branch of Russia's GRU, which operates under the larger umbrella of Russian military intelligence. This unit is known for its involvement in high-stakes cyber operations, often targeting governments, military institutions, and private organizations worldwide. Their work is very sophisticated and can be destructive. So one of the most notorious actions in recent years was the deployment of the Whispergate malware against Russia in the early 2022. Whispergate is a destructive wiper malware designed to erase data and cripple targeted systems, masquerading as a ransomware to mislead victims and researchers alike. It was a clear escalation of cyber hostilities amid ongoing geopolitical tensions, and is just one example of Unit 29155's broader agenda to disrupt, destabilize, and gather intelligence. The unit's activities are not just limited to cyber espionage. They've also been linked to high-profile operations, such as the attempted assassination of Sergei Skripal, who was a former Russian spy in the UK, and the destabilization efforts in Montenegro and other European nations. Their history paints a picture of a highly skilled, adaptable, and persistent threat actor that operates with near impunity on the world stage. Since at least 2020, these cyber actors have continued their operations against a range of global targets, using a mix of conventional cyber espionage, sabotage, and efforts to damage reputations. The US Department of Justice and other agencies have repeatedly warned of the risk posed by this group, highlighting their ongoing efforts to penetrate and exploit critical infrastructure, private organizations, and government networks. So what are they doing? Unit 29155 cyber actors have been observed targeting IP ranges used within multiple government and critical infrastructure organizations. As the cyber actors perform reconnaissance on victims' networks and discover vulnerabilities within victim web servers or machines, they obtain CVE exploit scripts from GitHub repositories and also use them against victim infrastructure. So Unit 29155 cyber actors have been observed obtaining the respective exploit scripts for but not been actively exploiting them. So they've been gathering the following vulnerabilities, such as CVE 2020-1472 related to Microsoft Windows Server, CVE 2021-26084 on Atlassian Confluence Server and Data Center, CVE 2021-3156 Red Hat Privilege Escalation by Command Line Argument Passing, and more. The latest advisory from the intelligence agencies encourages organizations to review the specific indicators of compromise associated with Whispergate and similar malware strains used by this unit. Mitigations include regular patching, implementing network segmentation, enhancing monitoring capabilities, and ensuring incident response plans are up to date. So go to the US CISA's website and check out the latest details on this advisory, and consult your internal SMEs a resource on this as well, and how you can protect your organization. So let's move on to the next update. There are some eye-opening stats coming out from Russia, where cybercrime is skyrocketing to alarming levels. In the first 7 months of 2024 alone, the damage from IT crimes in Russia reached a staggering 91 billion rubles. That's about 950 million US dollars. For context, the total damage in 2023 was 157 billion rubles. So we're talking about nearly $1 billion in cybercrime losses in just over half a year. This was shared by Daniel Filipov, the deputy head of the investigative department of the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs, during a recent session at the Eastern Economics Forum 2024. Now you might be wondering, what's driving those losses? Well, it's a mix of everything from your good old-fashioned theft of funds to more severe crimes like drug trafficking, extremism, and even terrorism, all facilitated through digital means. So according to Filipov, the number of IT crimes in Russia jumped by 27% from 2020 to 2023, rising from 510,000 incidents to 677,000. That's a massive spike in just a few years. But here's the crazy stat for you. The Central Bank of Russia reported that in 2023, fraudsters stole 15.8 billion rubles from bank customers, which is a 11.5% increase from the previous year. And while the first quarter of 2024 showed a slight dip in stolen funds compared to last year, the overall damage to citizens' wallets was still higher. It's clear that despite new laws and measures, the fight against cybercrime is far from over. Speaking of laws, this brings us to the million-dollar question, or should I say billion ruble question. Is hacking actually illegal in Russia? The short answer is yes, but it's complicated. Russia has laws against cybercrime, and hacking is illegal. However, the enforcement and legal landscape can be quite of a grey area. Russia's regulatory framework for combating cybercrime has been criticized for being inadequate. This lack of strong regulation means that while hacking is technically a crime, enforcement can be inconsistent, especially when the cyber activities align with state interests or are directed out of Russia. Stanislav, the deputy chairman of the board of Sberbank, pointed out that Russia's current approach to combating cybercrime is weak, and the country has pushed for a UN convention to unite global efforts against these digital threats. This convention was recently agreed upon and could soon be up for approval at the UN General Assembly, paving the way for a more coordinated international response. So to combat these crimes, Russian authorities have rolled out some new measures. Artem Shekin, a member of the Federation Council, noted that banks can now pause suspicious payments for 2 days if the recipient is flagged in the central bank's frauds database. This aims to slow down cyber criminals and gives banks a bit more time to investigate suspicious transactions. Additionally, the Russian government has tightened regulations around SIM cards, making it mandatory for telecom operators to verify subscriber information before activating services. For foreign nationals, there's even a requirement to submit biometrics when buying a SIM card. But here's an interesting twist. There's now a limit of how many SIM cards one person can have. So for Russian citizens, you can have up to 20, and foreign citizens can just have up to 10. But here's the kicker. Experts like Dennis from the Telecom Daily argue that while these measures are steps in the right direction, they won't completely eradicate cyber fraud. Fraudsters will still find ways to exploit social engineering tactics and continue operating from abroad. And let's not forget, there are still millions of grey SIM cards floating around. Those are basically unregistered or misregistered SIMs, often used by cyber criminals to mask their activities. At the end of the day, the rise or fall of cybercrime in Russia isn't just about laws or SIM card restrictions. It's about how vulnerable people are to manipulation and deception. It's a reminder that no matter where you are in the world, staying vigilant and informed is key to protecting yourself in this digital age. Let's move on to the next topic. US intelligence officials expect more foreign influence efforts leading up to election day. Foreign influence operations targeting US elections is a hot topic. Yes, we're talking about Russia, Iran and China, the three big players who are ramping up their influence efforts as we get closer to US election day this year. So here are the details that I have gathered based on my research. US intelligence officials are warning that Russia, Iran and China are stepping up their game in the final 2 months of this election cycle. This assessment comes straight from the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, or ODNI, and it's got everyone from political committees to state election officials on high alert. But here's where it gets interesting. The ODNI officials emphasize that while what they're seeing right now falls under influence operations, not direct interference with voting process or election infrastructure, but hey, this could change anytime, especially as things heat up. Now let's talk about specifics. Just last month, US officials accused Iran of a hack and leak operation aimed at the presidential campaigns of Donald Trump and JD Vance. And if that wasn't enough drama, this past week alone, the US slapped indictments, seizures and sanctions on Russian officials and members of the RT Russian state-run media. Why? Well, they were involved in a $10 million scheme to launder pro-Russian propaganda through a right-wing media outlet called Tenet Media, using popular conservative influencers to spread those narratives. Imagine this, Russian money funneled through a fake investor, making its way to US commentators who unknowingly, or perhaps knowingly, push Russia-friendly messages to millions of Americans. It's a complex web, and the fallout is just beginning. According to ODNI, Moscow is increasingly using third-party entities, think more like PR firms, state media and American macro and micro influencers to disguise its propaganda as authentic American free speech. It's a sneaky approach, but it's sophisticated and is happening right now under our noses, not just in the US but also other countries as well. One of the clearest examples came this week, when the US government charged nearly a dozen Russian nationals as part of a plot to influence US politics. Under the Foreign Agents Registration Act, if you're working on behalf of a foreign power, you've got to disclose that to the Department of Justice. But let's just say not everyone's playing by the rules. Tenet Media wasn't directly named in these legal actions, but it's all but confirmed that this company was at the center of the scandal. Several conservative commentators who worked with Tenet have now publicly acknowledged their involvement, though they claim that they had no idea that the Russian government was behind the payments. One of these commentators, Taylor, who describes himself as a field operator, announced on social media that Tenet Media has shut down and is now looking for a new job. Meanwhile, Tim, another contributor, said he's been contacted by the FBI for a voluntary interview, which he's accepted. And then there's Sebastian, a former White House advisor to Trump, who revealed that he was approached by Tenet in early 2023, but turned down the offer after getting suspicious about who was funding the whole operation. Gawker's words were blunt. Those caught up in this web should have known better. Seriously. It's a clear warning. If something seems too good to be true, it probably is. So what does this mean as we head into the final stretch of the US elections? Well, it's a reminder that foreign influence is real, it's happening now, and it's more insidious than ever. The intelligence community is on high alert, but it's also on us, the people, the voters, the media, and the public to stay informed, question what we see, and recognize when we're being manipulated. Alright, on the next list is the vulnerability on a WordPress plugin called LiteSpeed Cache, where LiteSpeed Cache exposes millions of WordPress sites to attacks. Imagine this: you're running a WordPress site. Maybe it's for your business, your blog, or even a community page. You've got everything set up, including plugins to boost performance and speed up your site. One of the popular choices out there is LiteSpeed Cache, a plugin that's installed over 6 million websites. But here's the kicker: a critical vulnerability in this plugin, tracked as CVE 2024-44000, has been discovered, putting millions of sites at risk of being hijacked. So what's the deal? Well, the flaw lies in how the plugin handles the debug log file. If the debugging is turned on, even just once, the log file might store users' cookies, including those belonging to admins. And since this log file can be publicly accessible, the attackers could potentially snag those cookies and log in as any user, including site admins. That's a recipe for a complete site takeover. PatchStack, the cybersecurity firm that identified this vulnerability, calls it critical. They emphasize that any site with debugging enabled, even briefly, could be exposed if the log file hasn't been cleaned out. The good news: LiteSpeed has rolled out a fix, moving the log file to a safer location, randomizing file names, and removing sensitive cookie information from headers. But here's the bad news: even though a patch was released on September 4th, millions of sites may still be vulnerable if they haven't been updated to the latest version. And that's a huge risk for site owners who might not even realize their site's been exposed. So this situation really highlights a key theme we've always come back to, and it's all about being resilient and staying ahead of the game. So if you're using LiteSpeed Cache, or really any plugin, it's crucial to keep everything updated and be mindful of what's being logged, especially when it comes to sensitive data. Our next topic takes us across to APAC. Singapore proposes a ban on deepfakes of candidates during elections. So we've been exploring the evolving landscape of digital threats, but here's an interesting move from Singapore that's really worth talking about, especially when we think about risk and resilience in the context of elections. Last Monday, 2nd of September, Singapore took a big step forward in tackling the growing problem of deepfakes and manipulated digital content during elections. The Ministry of Digital Development and Information has proposed a new law to ban any AI-generated or manipulated content of candidates during election periods. This is called the Elections Integrity of Online Advertising Amendment Bill. But it's all about safeguarding the election process from fake or misleading content. Now, why does this matter? Well, deepfakes aren't just a buzzword anymore. These are digitally altered videos that can make it look like a candidate is saying something or doing something they never did. We've seen deepfakes pop up all over the world, often used for scams, extortion, and misinformation, and they're becoming increasingly sophisticated. Under this proposed law, any content that realistically shows a candidate doing or saying something they didn't actually do would be banned during the election period. It's a critical move because during those tense weeks before the polls, a single misleading video could swing voter opinions. The Singapore's next general election is just around the corner, about to be held in November 2025. So these rules are aimed at keeping the election process clean and fair. but it's just not about banning content. The bill empowers the returning officer to issue corrective directions to take down any offending content. Social media services that don't comply could face fines of up to 1 million Singapore dollars, and for individuals, the penalties can include hefty fines or even jail time. I think this is a great example of a proactive approach to managing digital risk, especially in an era where information, true or false, travels very fast. I don't think it's not just about stopping the spread of falsehoods, but it's also about maintaining the integrity of the electoral process and ensuring that voters are not misled. This kind of legislation strikes a balance between freedom of expression and protecting the public from misinformation. It's an evolving challenge that many countries will be watching closely as the line between the entertainment, free speech, and deliberate misinformation continues to be very blurred. The other point I wanted to cover on the topic, we go back to the US, is that the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, the CISA, has called for organizations to voluntarily report cyber incidents. CISA is urging organizations of all sizes to voluntarily report cyber incidents. And you might be thinking, why should I report it? Isn't that just for the big organizations or just those with strict regulations? Well, not quite. Here's the deal. Cyber incidents can hit any of us, regardless of any business size, location, whether you're a public institution, and even individuals. And reporting these incidents isn't just about ticking a box. It's about playing a pivotal role in protecting the broader community. When you report a cyber incident, you are helping CISA rapidly identify ongoing threats and understand what's working when it comes to mitigating them. This speeds up the response, not just for your organization, but for everyone else that might be in the line of fire. Plus, think about it. By sharing information on exploiting vulnerabilities, we can help prevent other organizations from becoming the next victim. It's like sounding the alarm when you spot a pothole on the road so others can avoid it. And that's just crucial because the faster we can identify and share insights, the quicker everyone can batten down the hatches. Beyond just response and recovery, your reports will contribute to a bigger picture, helping CISA and other intelligence partners get a clearer view of the entire cyber threat landscape. This, in turn, informs how resources are allocated and where we need to strengthen defences. It's about creating a collective shield against the evolving tactics of cybercrime, nation-state hackers, and other bad actors. And let's not forget, reporting helps law enforcement go after those responsible, taking cybercriminals off the street and hopefully deterring future attacks. So it's a bit of a win-win situation for everyone, the government, the industry, and general public. So if your organisation experiences a cyber incident, don't hesitate to report it to CISA. It's not just about protecting your own network, but it's about contributing to a safer, more resilient digital environment. The other part of the topic, I don't know if you know, is did you know that 99% of the world's data is transmitted through undersea cables? That's right. Beneath the ocean surface lies a network of subsea cables that form the backbone of the global economy. Every day, around $10 trillion worth in financial transactions flow through these cables, along with crucial information ranging from internet traffic to military communications. And it just doesn't stop there. These undersea cables also include pipelines that carry vital resources like oil, gas, and electricity. So given the importance of these undersea networks, you might be wondering what happens if they're disrupted or attacked. Well, that's where things get concerning. As geopolitical tensions rise, these infrastructures have become increasingly attractive targets for hybrid interference. We're talking about espionage, sabotage, and potentially even direct attacks aimed at disrupting global communications and energy supplies. Even, with NATO, and the growing threat landscape, NATO has recognized the critical importance of protecting these undersea assets. Securing undersea infrastructure is becoming a priority for the alliance. The reason is simple. If these systems are compromised, it could lead to catastrophic consequences not just for individual nations, but for global economic stability and security. So NATO's role here is multifaceted. First, there's the task of enhancing the resilience of undersea networks, ensuring that they can withstand and recover from potential attacks. This involves collaboration with member states to develop advanced monitoring and rapid response capabilities. NATO is also working to strengthen the legal and operational frameworks needed to deter and respond to threats against these critical infrastructures. But it's not just about military might or technical fixes, it's also about international cooperation. Protecting these global lifelines requires a collective effort, with NATO serving as a crucial coordinating body to bring together the various stakeholders, including governments, private companies, and international organizations. So that's a wrap for my first weekly update on risk and resilience. If you got any feedback or do let me know, and do subscribe to this channel. Thank you for listening.